The massive space station floated in the dark void like a small moon made of metal and glass. Council Station Alpha was the biggest thing humans had ever seen built by thinking beings. It stretched for miles in every direction, with docking bays that could hold ships the size of cities. Thousands of different alien species lived and worked inside its gleaming halls. Ambassador Jake Morrison stood at the viewing deck, watching ships come and go through the station's main port. His dark hair was cut short and neat, the way diplomats were supposed to look. His blue suit was simple but well made. Everything about him screamed normal, peaceful human being. That was exactly what he wanted. Behind him, Lisa Brooks was reading reports on her tablet. She had blonde hair tied back in a simple bun and wore a gray dress that made her look like any other cultural attaché. Her green eyes moved quickly across the screen, but she was also watching the reflection in the window. 3 Zephyrian guards had been following them for the past hour. She made a mental note of their positions and kept reading. Captain Ryan Torres sat nearby, supposedly reviewing trade agreements. His military uniform had been replaced with civilian clothes months ago when they arrived at the station. The brown-haired man looked like he had never held a weapon in his life. His hands moved slowly across the documents, but his eyes tracked every movement in the crowded observation deck. He counted exits, noted security cameras, and watched for threats. The 3 humans had been working together for 6 months now. 6 months of smiling, nodding, and pretending to be exactly what the galaxy expected them to be. Harmless, weak, barely worth noticing. A tall figure approached their table. The alien stood nearly 8 feet high, with skin that looked like living crystal. Light seemed to bend around his body, creating small rainbows in the air. This was Ambassador Krelton of the Zephyrian Empire, one of the most powerful species in the Galactic Council. "Greetings, Human Morrison," Krelton said. His voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "I trust you are finding our station comfortable?" Jake stood and smiled warmly. "Very comfortable, thank you. Your people have been most welcoming," the crystal being tilted his head slightly. "We are pleased. Your species shows promise for peaceful trade. Perhaps in time, you will be ready for more significant responsibilities." Lisa looked up from her tablet and smiled sweetly. "We appreciate the Council's patience with us. We know we have much to learn." Krelton made a sound that might have been laughter. "Indeed. Your people are still so young, so innocent of the greater galaxy's complexities." Ryan nodded politely. "We're grateful for the chance to observe and learn from more experienced species." The Zephyrian seemed pleased by this humble response. "Wisdom comes with age, Human Torres. Your species will understand in time." After Krelton glided away, the 3 humans sat in silence for a moment. Then Jake spoke quietly, never changing his pleasant expression. "Condescending crystal head." 14 ways to shatter him," Lisa murmured, still reading her tablet. "Exit. Routes mapped. Security response time estimated at 43 seconds, Ryan added, turning a page in his report. They continued their work as if nothing had happened. This was their life now. Smile, nod, take insults, and let everyone think humans were weak and stupid. It was the hardest mission any of them had ever undertaken. The observation deck began to fill with beings from across the galaxy. The afternoon session of the Galactic Council was about to begin, and delegates were gathering. Jake watched them with the trained eye of someone who had spent years studying alien psychology. The Vraktar delegation chittered to themselves as they moved past. The insect-like beings stood on 6 legs and had 4 arms each. Their compound eyes glittered with what humans had learned was amusement. They found most other species funny and weak. Humans especially amused them. 3 Dolphari floated by in their water-filled mobility suits. The dolphin-like aliens communicated through musical sounds that their translators turned into words. They considered themselves the most emotionally sophisticated species in the galaxy. To them, humans were like children, simple and naive. "Look at them," Lisa whispered. "They think we're pets." "Let them," Jake replied quietly. "It makes our job easier." A deep, rumbling sound announced the arrival of the Krex delegation. General Thokran stomped into the observation area, his massive frame making the deck shake slightly. The warrior species stood 9 feet tall and was covered in thick, dark fur. Scars crossed his face and arms, each one a badge of honor in Krex society. Thokran's eyes found the human delegation, and he snorted with what sounded like disgust. "Soft pink things," he growled loud enough for everyone to hear. "Council wastes time with creatures that have never known real battle." Several other delegates turned to look at the humans. Jake felt their eyes on him, measuring, judging, dismissing. He kept his face calm and neutral, the perfect image of a peaceful diplomat. "We should respond," Ryan muttered under his breath. "No," Jake said quietly. "Let him talk." The Krex general continued his loud conversation with his aide. "Look at them. Weak arms, dull teeth, slow reflexes. Their world must be paradise if this is what survives to leave it." Lisa's fingers tightened on her tablet, but her smile never wavered. She had studied Krex anatomy extensively. She knew exactly where to strike to drop the big alien in under 2 seconds. The knowledge burned in her mind, but she kept it locked away. The council session bell rang, a sound that traveled through the station's corridors. Delegates began moving toward the main chamber. Jake stood and straightened his jacket, then walked calmly toward the entrance. Lisa and Ryan followed, keeping the proper distance behind him. The council chamber was enormous, with seating for over 300 different species. Humans had been given seats in the back corner, far from the important delegates. Jake didn't mind. It gave him a perfect view of everyone else. Chairman Veltar of the Etherian Collective called the session to order. The tall, thin being had pale blue skin and large black eyes. His species was known for their fairness and wisdom. They had been running the council for over 1,000 years. "Today we address the continued disputes between the Tender Coalition and the Krex Empire regarding mining rights in the Outer Spiral," Veltar announced. Jake listened as both sides presented their arguments. The Tender Coalition, a group of peaceful plant-like beings, claimed they had discovered the mineral deposits first. The Krex Empire argued that might made right, and they were stronger. Hours passed. Neither side would compromise. The Tender Coalition offered scientific data. The Krex threatened military action. Other species suggested various solutions, but nothing worked. Finally, Chairman Veltar looked around the chamber. "Does any other delegate wish to offer a perspective on this matter?" Jake stood slowly. The chamber fell quiet. Many delegates turned to stare at the human who dared to speak up. "If I may, Chairman," Jake said in his calm, steady voice. Veltar nodded. "The floor recognizes Ambassador Morrison of Earth." Jake walked to the center of the chamber, feeling hundreds of alien eyes watching him. He cleared his throat and began to speak. "Both sides have valid points," he said. "The Tender Coalition discovered the deposits through scientific exploration. The Krex Empire has the military power to take them. But there is a third option." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Joint development. The Tender Coalition provides the scientific expertise and workers. The Krex Empire provides security and transportation. Both sides share the profits equally." Murmurs filled the chamber. Several delegates leaned forward, suddenly interested. "Furthermore," Jake continued, "this partnership could serve as a model for future disputes. Science and strength working together instead of against each other." General Thokran stood up, his massive frame towering over the human. "Soft words from a soft species. What does a race of weaklings know about real solutions?" Jake looked up at the Krex general without flinching. His smile never changed, but something cold flickered in his eyes for just a moment. Then it was gone. "Sometimes the best solutions come from those who understand both strength and wisdom, General." The chamber buzzed with conversation. The Tender Coalition delegate was nodding thoughtfully. Even some of the Krex faction seemed interested. Chairman Veltar called for quiet. "An interesting proposal, Ambassador Morrison. We will consider it carefully." As Jake returned to his seat, he caught Lisa's eye. She gave him the tiniest nod. Phase 1 was complete. The galaxy still saw humans as weak and harmless. They had no idea what was really sitting in their midst. The emergency alarm rang through Council Station Alpha at 3 in the morning. Station time. Red lights flashed in the corridors as beings from dozens of species rushed to emergency stations. Jake Morrison was already awake when the alarm started. He had been reading intelligence reports in his quarters, unable to sleep. Within minutes, he was dressed and heading to the emergency council chamber. Lisa Brooks and Ryan Torres met him in the corridor. All three humans looked alert, despite the early hour. They had trained for situations like this. "What do we know?" Jake asked quietly as they walked. "Pirates," Lisa replied, checking her tablet. "Big attack on the Harmony trade route. Multiple ships destroyed." Ryan frowned. "That's the third major attack this month. Someone's getting organized." The emergency chamber was chaos when they arrived. Delegates from every major species were talking at once, their voices mixing into a wall of noise. Chairman Veltar stood at the center trying to restore order. "Silence," the Etherian leader called out. "We will address this crisis with calm and reason." A holographic display appeared in the center of the room, showing the damaged trade route. Burning ships drifted in space while rescue vessels tried to help survivors. The sight made several delegates gasp in horror. Ambassador Krelton spoke first, his crystal body shimmering with agitation. "This is the work of the Void Reapers. They have grown bold." "Too bold," agreed Delegate Morsek of the Tender Coalition. The plant-like being's leaves rustled with distress. 7 freighters destroyed. Hundreds of innocent beings killed. "General," Thokran slammed his massive fist on his desk. "Cowards. They strike at traitors and run before real warriors can face them." Jake listened carefully as more reports came in. The Void Reapers were not just random pirates anymore. Someone had organized them into a real threat. Their attacks were coordinated and planned. They hit multiple targets at once, then vanished. Before help could arrive, "We must respond with force," declared General Thokran. "Send the Krex battle fleet. We will hunt down these criminals." "Violence will only create more violence," argued Delegate Morsek. "We should try to negotiate. Perhaps they can be reasoned with." "Reason with pirates?" The Krex general's laugh was like thunder. "You might as well reason with a black hole." Captain Sylvan of the Dolfari delegation whistled a complex pattern that the translators turned into words. "Our defensive networks have proven inadequate. We need a new approach." Jake watched the debate continue for hours. Every species had their own solution and none of them would work. The Zephyrians wanted to use their advanced sensors to track the pirates. The Vraktar suggested using swarm tactics. The Etherians proposed forming a committee to study the problem. As the sun rose over the station, they were no closer to a solution than when they started. The pirates were still out there, getting stronger every day. Finally, Chairman Veltar called for a recess. "We will reconvene in 6 hours. Perhaps rest will bring clarity." As delegates filed out of the chamber, Jake remained in his seat. Lisa and Ryan stayed with him waiting. The chamber slowly emptied until only a few beings remained. "This is worse than they think," Jake said quietly. Lisa nodded, studying her tablet. "I've been tracking the attack patterns. There's definitely organization behind this. Someone smart is running the show." "The galaxy's never faced anything like this before," Ryan observed. "They don't know how to fight a real enemy." Jake stood and walked to the holographic display studying the attack sites. Each one had been chosen perfectly. Maximum damage, minimum risk. The pirates were learning and adapting faster than the council could respond. 2 days later, the worst attack yet came through the emergency channels. The Void Reapers had hit the Kepler system, destroying a medical supply convoy heading to plague-stricken colonies. Thousands would die without those supplies. But worse news followed. Intelligence. Reports confirmed what Jake had suspected. The pirates had a new leader, someone called Warlord Kesevar. Under his command, dozens of pirate groups had joined together. They now controlled a fleet of over 200 ships. The emergency session was even more chaotic than before. Species that had been allies for centuries were now blaming each other for the crisis. The Krex accused the Zephyrians of being too soft. The Tender Coalition said the Kreks were too aggressive. The Dolfari claimed everyone was thinking about the problem wrong. "Order, order!" Chairman Veltar shouted over the noise. "We must work together or we will all fall separately." General Thokran stood, his scarred face twisted with anger. "Work together? Half of you are too weak to fight and the other half are too scared. Give me one Krex fleet and I will end this." "Your fleets have already tried," reminded Captain Sylvan. "The pirates destroyed 3 of your ships last week." The Krex general's roar echoed through the chamber. "Those were scouts. Give me a real battle fleet and watch what happens." "And when they scatter before your fleet arrives?" asked Ambassador Krelton. "These pirates do not fight fair battles. They strike and run like cowards." Hours passed with no progress. Every plan was shot down by someone else. The Etherians suggested economic sanctions. The Vraktar wanted to hire mercenaries. The Tender Coalition proposed sending the pirate supplies in exchange for peace. Jake had heard enough. He stood slowly, waiting for a break in the arguing. When the chamber finally quieted, he spoke. "If I may address the council." All eyes turned to the human ambassador. Some delegates looked annoyed that such a minor species would interrupt their important debate. Others seemed curious about what the peaceful humans might suggest. "The floor recognizes Ambassador Morrison," Chairman Veltar said. Jake walked to the center of the chamber, his footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. He looked around at the assembled delegates, meeting each species' gaze directly, the void. "Reapers are not just pirates anymore," he began. "They are a military force with strategic planning and coordinated tactics. Traditional approaches will not work against them." General Thokran snorted. "What would humans know about fighting pirates? Your species has never faced real battle." Jake's expression didn't change, but Lisa noticed his hands clasped behind his back. It was a small sign that meant he was getting ready for something. "That may be true, General," Jake said calmly. "But sometimes an outside perspective can see solutions that others miss." He turned to address the entire chamber. "Earth would like to offer our assistance in resolving this crisis." The chamber erupted in surprised murmurs. Several delegates actually laughed. The idea of humans helping with a military problem seemed absurd to them. "What could you possibly offer?" asked Ambassador Krelton, his crystal body flickering with amusement. "Ships," Jake replied simply, "and crews trained in unconventional tactics." "Ships?" General Thokran's laughter boomed through the chamber. "You have shown us your pathetic little transport vessels. What could they do against a real pirate fleet?" Jake smiled, and for just a moment something cold and dangerous flickered in his eyes. "We have other ships, General. Ships you haven't seen yet." The laughter in the chamber began to die down as delegates realized the human was serious. Chairman Veltar leaned forward. "What exactly are you proposing, Ambassador Morrison?" "Let us bring one of our defensive vessels to assist in the operation," Jake said. "If it proves inadequate, you lose nothing. If it helps, the crisis is resolved faster." The chamber fell silent as delegates considered this unexpected offer. Jake waited patiently, his calm expression never changing. "Very well," Chairman Veltar said finally. "The Council accepts Earth's offer of assistance." As Jake returned to his seat, he caught Ryan's eye and nodded slightly. It was time to make some calls to Earth, time to activate protocols that had been waiting for exactly this moment. The galaxy was about to discover that humans had been hiding more than just their diplomatic skills. The real question was whether they were ready for what came next. 3 days after Jake's offer to help, a new ship appeared on the edge of Council Station Alpha's sensor range. The UES Intrepid looked like nothing special to the alien observers watching its approach. It was smaller than most Council warships, with clean lines and diplomatic markings along its hull. "That is their warship?" General Thokran asked, staring at the display screen in the station's command center. His scarred face showed clear disappointment. "It looks like an oversized shuttle." Ambassador Krelton's crystal body shimmered with what might have been amusement. "Perhaps humans have different ideas about what constitutes a military vessel." Captain Sylvan of the Dolfari whistled something that the translator turned into gentle laughter. "It is actually quite elegant, simple and functional." Jake Morrison stood nearby, watching the reactions of the alien observers. His expression remained neutral, but Lisa Brooks caught the tiny smile that flickered across his face for just a moment. The Intrepid docked at one of the station's smaller ports. Within an hour, its captain had arrived at the command center for the scheduled briefing. Captain Sarah Blake was a woman in her mid-30s with short brown hair and steady gray eyes. She wore a simple blue uniform with minimal decorations. "Captain Blake," Jake said, stepping forward to make introductions. "Thank you for coming so quickly." "Ambassador," Sarah replied with a slight nod. "We received your message and came as fast as we could." General Thokran looked down at the human captain, his massive frame towering over her. "So you are the warrior come to save us all?" Sarah looked up at the Krex general without flinching. "I'm here to help however I can, General." The big alien snorted. "Help? What can one small ship do against hundreds of pirates?" "We'll find out," Sarah said simply. Chairman Veltar called the meeting to order. Military leaders from every major species had gathered to plan their response to the Void Reapers. Holographic displays showed star charts, ship movements, and attack patterns. "The situation has grown worse," the Etherean leader announced. "Intelligence reports indicate the pirates now control over 200 ships under Warlord Kesevar's command." Captain Blake studied the displays carefully, her eyes moving from one screen to another. She asked questions about ship types, crew numbers, and weapon capabilities. Her questions were detailed and specific, showing knowledge that surprised several alien officers. "How do you know so much about our military systems?" asked Commander Zektar of the Vraktar fleet. "We study our allies' capabilities," Sarah replied. "It helps us understand how we can work together." For the next 2 hours, the alien commanders explained their previous attempts to stop the pirates. The Krex had tried direct assault, but the pirates scattered before their fleets arrived. The Zephyrians had used their advanced sensors to track pirate movements, but couldn't predict where they would strike next. The Vraktar had attempted swarm tactics but lacked the coordination to make them effective. Sarah listened to everything, without comment. She took notes on a simple tablet, occasionally asking for clarification on technical details. The alien officers began to wonder what the quiet human captain was thinking. Finally, Commander Veltar asked, "Do you have any suggestions, Captain Blake?" Sarah looked up from her notes. "I need to see the complete intelligence files on the pirate fleet. Ship specifications, crew information, base locations, supply routes, everything you have." "That is classified military information," General Thokran protested. "What use could one small ship make of such data?" "The more I understand about the enemy, the better I can help," Sarah said calmly. Jake stepped forward. "Captain Blake has my complete confidence, General. I believe she can provide valuable insights." After some debate, the council agreed to share their intelligence files. Sarah spent the rest of the day reviewing thousands of reports, sensor readings, and tactical analyses. Lisa Brooks helped her process the information, the two women working steadily through the night. By morning, they had prepared a comprehensive battle plan. Sarah called for another meeting with the military commanders. When they gathered, she presented her analysis using the chamber's holographic displays. "The Void Reapers have 3 main weaknesses," she began. "First, they rely on hit-and-run tactics because they can't win direct confrontations. Second, their fleet is too big to supply properly without permanent bases. Third, Warlord Kesevar has united them through fear, which means his control is fragile." The alien commanders leaned forward, suddenly interested. Sarah continued, manipulating the holographic display to show ship movements and battle formations. "Instead of chasing them, we let them come to us. We create a target they can't resist, then use their own aggression against them." "What kind of target?" asked Commander Zektar. "A supply convoy carrying medical supplies to the plague colonies," Sarah replied. "Heavily defended but with obvious weaknesses, they'll see an opportunity for a major victory and commit their entire fleet." General Thokran studied the plan carefully. "And then what? Once they attack, we spring a trap?" "Not exactly," Sarah said. "We let them win the first engagement. Let them think they've destroyed our defenses. Then, when they're focused on looting the convoy, we hit them from 3 different directions at once. The plan was complex and detailed. Sarah had accounted for each species' strengths and weaknesses, creating roles that maximized their effectiveness. The Zephyrians would provide long-range sensors and communications. The Vraktar would handle close-quarters combat. The Kreks would serve as the heavy assault force. The Dolfari would coordinate rescue operations for civilians. "This is very sophisticated," admitted Ambassador Krelton. "Your tactical thinking is quite advanced for such a young species." Sarah nodded politely. "We've had good teachers." But as the meeting continued, several commanders began to express doubts. The plan required precise timing and coordination between species that had never worked together before. One mistake could result in disaster. "Too complex," General Thokran declared. "Battle plans should be simple. Point your ships at the enemy and destroy them." "That approach hasn't worked so far," Sarah pointed out. "Because we haven't used enough ships," the Kreks general replied. "Give me 100 vessels and I will crush these pirates." "And they'll scatter again before you arrive," Sarah said. "Just like they have every other time." The argument continued for hours. Some commanders supported Sarah's plan. Others preferred simpler approaches. Meanwhile, reports kept coming in of new pirate attacks. The Void Reapers were growing bolder, hitting targets closer to major population centers. Then came the news that changed everything. The pirates had attacked the Harmony system, not just hitting supply convoys, but actually landing troops on 3 civilian colonies. Thousands of innocent beings were now hostages. The emergency session that followed was chaos. Every species demanded immediate action. Some wanted to negotiate for the hostages' release. Others called for immediate military response. "We cannot wait any longer," Chairman Veltar announced. "The pirates have crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed." General Thokran stood up, his scarred face twisted with rage. "Give me the order, and I will launch every ship we have." "And get all the hostages killed," Sarah said quietly. The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to the human captain. "This is exactly what Kesevar wants," she continued. "He's forcing us to react emotionally instead of thinking clearly. The moment we charge in without a plan, those civilians die." "Then what do you suggest?" demanded the Kreks general. Sarah looked around the chamber, meeting each commander's gaze. When she spoke, her voice was calm, but there was something different about her now. Something harder. "Let me show you what the Intrepid can really do." The alien commanders exchanged glances. What could one small ship accomplish that their entire fleets couldn't? "With respect, Captain," said Commander Zektar, "your vessel appears to be designed for diplomatic missions, not military operations." Sarah's smile was small and cold. "Appearances can be deceiving, Commander." Jake Morrison stepped forward. "The Council asked for Earth's help. I suggest we let Captain Blake demonstrate why we sent her." There was something in the human ambassador's tone that made several aliens suddenly nervous. For the first time, some of them began to wonder if they had been making assumptions about human capabilities. "Very well," Chairman Veltar said after a long pause. "Captain Blake, you have permission to proceed with your operation, but understand, if you fail, those hostages will die." Sarah nodded once. "Understood, Chairman. We won't fail." As she left the chamber, several alien observers noticed that Captain Blake moved differently now. Gone was the polite, deferential diplomat. In her place walked someone who looked like she was going hunting. The galaxy was about to learn what humans meant when they said they were peaceful. The UES Intrepid moved through space like a hunting shark. Captain Sarah Blake sat in her command chair, watching the tactical displays with cold, focused eyes. Her crew worked around her with quiet efficiency. Every person on the bridge knew exactly what they were doing. "Distance to target?" Sarah asked. 12,000 kilometers and closing," replied Lieutenant Ben Carter from the navigation station. "The pirate fleet is holding position around the colony." "Sensor readings? 237 vessels," reported Ensign Kate Wilson from the sensor station. "Mix of different classes. They're spread out in a defensive formation around the 3 captured colonies." Sarah nodded. The Void Reapers had chosen their position well. Any direct assault would result in massive civilian casualties. Traditional tactics would fail here. But Sarah Blake hadn't brought traditional tactics. Communications. Open a channel to Council Fleet Command. Channel open, Captain. The main screen split to show the command centers of a dozen different alien fleets. General Thokran's scarred face filled one section, while Ambassador Krelton's crystal form occupied another. Chairman Veltar appeared in the center, surrounded by tactical displays. Captain Blake, the Etherian leader said, our sensors show you approaching the pirate fleet alone. Where are your supporting vessels? I don't need supporting vessels for this operation, Chairman. General Thokran's laugh boomed through the speakers. One ship against over 200? This is madness. You will accomplish nothing but your own destruction. Sarah's expression didn't change. Watch and learn, General. She turned to her weapons officer. Commander Peterson, bring all systems online. Aye, Captain. Beginning system activation now. What happened next made every alien observer freeze in shock. The small, harmless-looking diplomatic vessel began to transform. Hidden panels slid open along its hull, revealing weapon systems that shouldn't exist. The ship's energy signature changed completely as military-grade shields came online. What in the void is that? Whispered Commander Zektar of the Vraktar fleet. The Intrepid's true nature was finally revealed. This wasn't a diplomatic escort. This was a ship designed for one purpose: to hunt and kill things that threatened humanity. Every line of its construction screamed predator. Weapons online, Commander Peterson reported, all systems showing green. Target the lead pirate vessel, Sarah ordered. Let's announce our presence. The Intrepid's main guns fired once. The massive pirate dreadnought that served as Warlord Kesevar's flagship shuddered under the impact. Its shields flared and died. Alarms began wailing across the pirate fleet. Impossible, breathed General Thokran. That ship should not have weapons that powerful. Sarah opened a communication channel to the pirate fleet. Her voice was calm and cold when she spoke. Warlord Kesevar, this is Captain Sarah Blake of the United Earth ship Intrepid. You have something that belongs to the galactic community. Return the hostages and surrender your fleet. The response came quickly, filled with static and rage. Human fool, you face the might of the Void Reapers. One small ship cannot stand against us all. You're right, Sarah replied. One small ship can't stand against you all. The pirate leader's laughter echoed through the communication channel. Then you will die like the soft creature you are. I'm not planning to stand against you, Sarah continued, her voice never changing. I'm planning to hunt you. The communication cut off. Across the pirate fleet, ships began moving into attack formation. 200 vessels turned toward the single human ship like a pack of wolves surrounding prey. But Sarah Blake wasn't prey. She was the hunter. All ships begin attack run. Kesevar ordered his fleet. The pirate vessels surged forward, weapons blazing. Energy beams and missile salvos filled the space around the Intrepid. It looked like the human ship would be destroyed in seconds. Instead, something impossible happened. The Intrepid moved like it was alive, sliding between the attacks with graceful precision. It wasn't just avoiding the weapons fire, it was dancing through it. How is she doing that? Asked Captain Sylvan of the Dolfari fleet. Sarah's tactical display showed the positions of every enemy ship. Her mind processed their attack patterns, predicted their movements, and found the gaps in their formation. She had been trained for this her entire career. Helm, bring us around. Target the supply ships first. The Intrepid spun and dove toward the back of the pirate formation. Its weapons fired with surgical precision, destroying the tankers and supply vessels that kept the pirate fleet operational. Each shot was calculated to cause maximum damage with minimum energy expenditure. She's cutting off their supplies, observed Ambassador Krelton. Without those ships, they cannot maintain a long battle. But the real surprise came when the pirates tried to surround the human vessel. Instead of being trapped, Sarah used their own numbers against them. She guided the Intrepid through the enemy formation, causing pirate ships to fire on each other in their eagerness to destroy her. Brilliant, whispered Commander Zektar. She is making them destroy themselves. The alien observers watched in growing amazement as the human captain systematically dismantled the pirate fleet's tactical formation. She didn't just fight them, she played with them, using their aggression and lack of discipline to turn them into their own worst enemy. "This is impossible," General Thokran muttered. "No single ship can outmaneuver an entire fleet." "A human ship can," Jake Morrison said quietly from his position on Council Station Alpha. Then came the moment that changed everything. A group of pirates managed to corner a civilian transport trying to escape from one of the captured colonies. They were preparing to destroy it when something in the human crew snapped. Sarah's voice came over the communication channel, but it was different now. Colder, more dangerous. "All pirates near the civilian vessel, stand down immediately." Or, "What, human?" the pirate commander taunted. "You will cry for us?" Sarah's response chilled every being listening to the channel. "No, I'll show you why humans are the apex predators of our world." The Intrepid changed course, heading straight for the pirates threatening the civilian ship. But this time it wasn't just tactical maneuvering. This was something primal and terrifying. The human ship moved through the pirate formation like a knife through soft flesh. Its weapons fired with deadly precision, not just destroying ships but doing it in ways that sent clear messages to the survivors. These weren't random attacks. This was controlled, calculated violence designed to break the enemy's will to fight. "By the void," whispered one of the alien observers. "They're not just fighting, they're hunting." The pirates began to panic. Their formation collapsed as individual ships tried to flee. But Sarah Blake wasn't finished with them yet. The Intrepid pursued the fleeing vessels, picking them off one by one with mechanical precision. "Captain," Lieutenant Carter said from his station, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the flagship." "Put it through." Warlord Kesevar's voice was different now. Gone was the arrogant confidence. In its place was something the galaxy had never heard from him before: fear. "Human captain," he said, his words shaking. I wish to negotiate." Sarah's smile was cold and sharp. "Now you want to talk? After threatening innocent civilians?" "The hostages," Kesevar said quickly. "I will release them. All of them. Just call off your attack." "The hostages will be released," Sarah agreed. "But not because you're offering. Because I'm taking them." The communication ended. Sarah turned to her first officer. "Commander Rodriguez, prepare the boarding teams." Boarding teams. General Thokran's voice came through the fleet channel. "You cannot board a hostile vessel in the middle of a battle." "Watch us," Sarah replied. The alien observers could only stare as the Intrepid launched small assault craft toward the pirate flagship. The human boarding parties moved through space like they owned it, dodging weapons fire and docking with enemy vessels. What happened next would be talked about in military academies across the galaxy for generations. The human Marines didn't just board the pirate ships. They cleared them with ruthless efficiency, moving through the corridors like ghosts of death. Captain Ryan Torres led the assault on Kesevar's flagship. The man who had spent months pretending to be a peaceful trade negotiator moved through the ship's corridors with lethal grace. His team followed behind him, each member a highly trained killer disguised as a diplomat's bodyguard. The pirates found themselves facing something they had never encountered before: creatures that were better at violence than they were. Humans who had turned warfare into an art form. Within 2 hours, it was over. The pirate fleet was destroyed or surrendered. The hostages were free. Warlord Kesevar was in custody, and the galaxy finally understood what they had been dealing with all along. The emergency council session 3 days later was unlike anything in galactic history. Every major species had sent their highest-ranking officials to Council Station Alpha. The chamber was packed with beings who had spent centuries thinking. They understood the balance of power in the galaxy. They had been wrong. Ambassador Jake Morrison stood at the center of the chamber, but he looked different now. Gone was the humble, eager-to-please diplomat who had arrived 6 months ago. In his place stood someone who radiated quiet confidence and barely contained power. The holographic displays around the chamber showed the aftermath of the Void Reaper battle. Destroyed pirate ships drifted in space. Rescue vessels worked to save survivors. The 3 colonies were free, their people safe. All of this had been accomplished by a single human ship and its crew. Chairman Veltar called the session to order, his pale blue skin seeming even paler than usual. We are here to discuss the recent events in the Harmony system, the actions taken by the human vessel, UES Intrepid. General Thokran was the first to speak. The massive Krex warrior looked smaller somehow, his usual arrogance replaced by something resembling respect. I have reviewed the battle recordings. What I saw should not have been possible. The human ship destroyed over 50 pirate vessels, added Commander Zektar of the Vraktar fleet. It outmaneuvered an entire enemy fleet. My tactical analysts cannot explain how this was accomplished. Ambassador Kreltin's crystal body flickered with nervous energy. More concerning are the boarding actions. The human Marines cleared heavily defended pirate ships in minutes. Their combat effectiveness exceeds anything in our military databases. Jake listened to the comments without expression. Around the chamber, hundreds of alien delegates stared at him with mixtures of fear, respect, and confusion. The harmless species they had dismissed for months had revealed capabilities that challenged everything they thought they knew about warfare. Ambassador Morrison, Chairman Veltar said carefully, "The Council requires an explanation. How does a species that claims to be peaceful possess such advanced military capabilities?" Jake looked around the chamber, meeting the gaze of delegate after delegate. When he spoke, his voice was calm, but carried undertones that made several beings shift nervously in their seats. "We never claimed to be incapable of violence, Chairman. We claim to prefer peace." "There is a difference?" asked Delegate Morsek of the Tender Coalition. "A significant one," Jake replied. "You have spent months assuming that peaceful means weak. That diplomatic means defenseless. You were mistaken." He gestured to the holographic displays showing the battle. "What you witnessed was not unusual for human military capabilities. It was actually quite restrained." The chamber erupted in startled murmurs. Several delegates exchanged worried glances. "Restrained?" General Thokran's voice carried disbelief. "Your ship destroyed an entire pirate fleet." Captain Blake was under strict orders to minimize casualties, Jake explained. "If we had wanted to simply eliminate the threat, the battle would have lasted minutes, not hours." The implications of this statement settled over the chamber like a cold fog. If what they had seen was humans holding back, what were they capable of when they didn't? Ambassador Kreltin leaned forward. "Ambassador Morrison, we must understand. What is the true nature of your species?" Jake was quiet for a long moment, choosing his words carefully. "Earth is not a peaceful world, delegates. It is a world where the most dangerous predators learn to cooperate instead of compete." He walked to the holographic display and manipulated it to show images of Earth. Beautiful landscapes, diverse ecosystems, thriving cities, but also images that made several aliens gasp in horror. Storms that could destroy cities, earthquakes that split continents, volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun. "Our world tried to kill us for millions of years," Jake continued. "We survived by becoming better predators than anything else on the planet. But we also learned something that most predators never do. We learned that the strongest hunters survive by protecting their pack." He turned back to face the chamber. "Humans are capable of incredible violence, but we choose not to use it unless we must. We prefer diplomacy, because it achieves better results with less cost. But when diplomacy fails, when innocent lives are threatened, we become something else entirely." Captain Sarah Blake entered the chamber at that moment, flanked by Captain Ryan Torres and Lisa Brooks. All 3 humans looked like ordinary, peaceful beings. But now every alien in the room could see the predators hidden beneath the diplomatic facade. "The pirate leader, Warlord Kesevar, has provided complete intelligence on remaining criminal organizations in the sector," Sarah reported. "He was very cooperative once he understood the alternative." General Thokran studied the human captain with new eyes. "What did you do to him?" Sarah's smile was small and cold. I explained the concept of a food chain to him, and where pirates fit on it when humans are involved. Delegate Morsek's leaves rustled with distress. Are you saying that humans see other species as prey? Not at all, Jake replied quickly. We see other species as our pack, our family. The galaxy is under our protection now, whether you realize it or not. Protection. Commander Zektar's compound eyes glittered with confusion. You speak as if you are our guardians. In a sense we are, Jake said. Not because we want to control you, but because it's our nature. Apex predators protect their territory and their pack. The galaxy is our territory now. You are our pack. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. For months they had been condescending to creatures that could have easily conquered them. Instead, the humans had chosen to protect them. Chairman Veltar spoke carefully. What does this mean for the future of the Galactic Council? It means the Council can focus on what it does best, Jake replied. Trade, diplomacy, cultural exchange, scientific cooperation, the things that make civilizations grow and prosper. And, when those fail? Asked Ambassador Krelton. Jake's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in his eyes. When those fail, you call us. Captain Blake stepped forward. The remaining pirate organizations in this sector have been given a simple choice. Leave immediately or face the consequences. Most have chosen to leave. And those that haven't? General Thokran asked. They're learning why that was a mistake, Sarah replied. Lisa Brooks activated her tablet and displayed new intelligence reports. We've also identified several other threats to galactic stability. Slave trading operations, illegal weapons dealers, rogue military units. We're prepared to address all of them. The alien delegates stared at the comprehensive intelligence data. The humans had been busy while everyone else argued in council chambers. They had been quietly mapping every threat in the galaxy. How long have you been planning this? Commander Zektar asked. Since the day we joined the council, Jake admitted. We knew that eventually the galaxy would face threats that couldn't be handled through diplomacy alone. We prepared for that day. And now that day has come, Chairman Veltar observed. Yes, Jake agreed. But not in the way you might think. We're not taking over the galaxy. We're offering to be its immune system, the antibodies that eliminate threats before they can cause serious harm. General Thokran studied the human ambassador with grudging respect. You have been planning this deception for months. Not deception, Jake corrected. Protection. The best way to keep the peace is to make sure everyone believes peace is the only option. He looked around the chamber one final time. The galaxy is safer now than it has been in centuries. Not because we conquered it, but because we chose to guard it. The only thing that has changed is that you now know who your guardians are. The session ended with a new understanding. The various species of the galaxy had learned that sometimes the most dangerous creatures are those that choose not to show their teeth. The humans had spent months being dismissed as weak and harmless, while quietly becoming the most powerful force in known space. But power, the delegates were learning, was not the same as dominance. The humans could have easily conquered the galaxy. Instead, they had chosen to protect it. As the aliens filed out of the chamber, many of them were wondering the same thing. What other surprises were the humans hiding? And did they really want to know? Jake Morrison watched them go with a slight smile. The galaxy was about to become a much safer place, not through conquest or control, but through the simple knowledge that somewhere in the darkness, apex predators were keeping watch. The age of human diplomacy had begun, and it was backed by the most effective military force the galaxy had ever seen. The question now was whether the galaxy was ready for what came next.